Welcome back to the heart of the Las Vegas Strip in the Link Studios overlooking Caesars Palace. Alongside Dalen Cuff, my name is Joe Fortenbaugh, and this is your Thursday installment of Bet. In just a few minutes, we're going to talk to Joe Lunardi about a little bracketology. We've got a 4-game college hoops pick'em challenge between Dalen and myself, as well as a 3-game NBA pick'em challenge, all set to come up momentarily, as well as the big question: how much better did the Indianapolis Colts get with today's trade for former Eagles quarterback Carson Wentz? You can actually check out information on that on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ESPN Sports Betting. Doug Kazarian, Stanford Steve, and myself will be talking about that later today before we launch into Daily Wager at 6 p.m. Eastern on ESPN2. Mr. Cuff, thank you for joining me. We're going to begin, somewhat surprisingly, with Major League Baseball. Caesars William Hill in Las Vegas released their 2021 season win totals. For those who are unfamiliar, a win total is essentially a number. How many wins will a given team produce in a year? You can either bet over or under. Here are the 5 most intriguing that we saw coming right out of the gate. The Pirates bringing up the rear at 58. But I want to focus momentarily on the Los Angeles Dodgers. 104.5 wins is the win total, which means if you like the over, you've got to get them to 105 wins this year. Now, 2 things to keep in mind. Number 1, we haven't seen a win total this high since 1999 with the New York Yankees, who did go under, but they did win the World Series. And number 2, check your house rules. Remember, the Dodgers and every other team at Caesars William Hill has to play at least 150 games this season for these bets to count. So we're advising everyone, always make sure you know your rules. And with that in mind, floor is yours, buddy. What do you think about the Dodgers? Would you play the over here?
Well, big ups to my hometown club, the Pirates, bringing up the rear. But let's start with the best. Let's focus on that. I would play the over. You hit the wild card with this year in every sport right now is COVID. So I'm assuming they're going to get over 150. I think they're going to get the whole 162 allotment in, given them money that was at stake and money that was lost last year. So I'm taking the over here. I had it set at 105. If it went any higher than that, I would have taken the under. I realize how high that is. Last year, they went 43-17 in the abbreviated year. If you extrapolate that out, that's 116 wins. Now, again, I know it's different, but you got the outstanding lineup. You got Mookie Betts. You bring in Trevor Bauer. Their rotation, you could argue their 5th starter is better than a lot of teams' 2nd starters, so easily. So I think this team's going to put up monstrous numbers, maybe historically good in the regular season. Doesn't mean they're going to win the World Series, but I think they're going to be historically good in the regular season.
You make a lot of great points, and the fact that a lot of people discount David Price is coming back as well. This rotation is just filled with aces, so when other teams like the Pirates are throwing their worst guy out there, you're going to have legitimate starters going for the Dodgers. I'm going to play the under here for 2 key reasons. Number 1, we're really toying with history. The Dodgers have been playing baseball for 138 seasons. They've hit 105 wins 2 times. Granted, one of those was a couple years ago in 2019, so we're not saying it can't be done, but we've only seen 105 wins 27 times throughout the history of Major League Baseball. Perhaps more importantly, now that the team got the monkey off their back last year in the playoffs, they finally won a World Series. I wonder what that's going to do to the mentality for this team through the month of May, June, July, and August. Do they feel like they need to win 108 games? Do they need to keep their foot on the gas every single night? Those are some of the questions I have that have me leaning to the under. But you made a great case for the over, and at the same time, and how much money do I really want to bet against this team, which is an absolute freight train?
For sure. Your point, though, about mentality is real. That's a great point, because how you approach the regular season, how much you value it. I mean, just look at LeBron and how a lot of times he approaches winning as it relates to the championships. The regular season, you'll do what is necessary. This year, outstanding. He's been unbelievable. But he tends to go through ups and downs, and great teams that are trying to build to the right time will almost hold back if need be. So we'll know really early in April and May if they're capable of hitting this, having a historical regular season. We'll know pretty soon, I think.
Agreed. All right, as we play every Thursday, it's time for the good word. Simple concept. We've got 3 different statements that I'm going to read out. First word that comes to mind, we're going to write it down, and then we're going to discuss it. Dalen, I'm going to let you go first because you're the guest. So the good word, number 1. The Philadelphia Eagles traded quarterback Carson Wentz to the Indianapolis Colts on Thursday in exchange for a 3rd-round pick this year and a conditional 2nd-round pick next year. What's the first word that comes to mind?
First word that comes to mind for me is renaissance, a potential rebirth for him as he moves on. Now, this is all potential, because if you're going to have the rebirth, and maybe he needs to be Machiavellian in his assessment of himself and his environment, is really look at himself and realize what kind of dude you are, what kind of guy you want to be, because he looked like a broken man at the end of his run with the Eagles, and obviously was benched in Week 13 and didn't come back. So he has to look at himself and say, okay, this is my one chance to stay in this league and be a leader of a team, a franchise quarterback again, which I thought I was going to be. If he wants to have this rebirth, he's got to go in with a clear mindset about who he is, what he wants to accomplish, and a belief that he can do it. He's got a good offensive line, very good coaching with the Colts. I think it's a well-run organization now. They're moving in the right direction. He's got all the pieces, or he's getting the pieces around him. But it's really about, to have this rebirth, you got to be self-assessment. He's got to be right mentally and physically to get to that point. I think they'll be better. I wonder how good he can be. We'll find out.
All right, I'm glad you focused on the Colts for this one, because I'm going to go in the other direction. My word for this situation is spelled horribly as I run out of room here. Bankrupt. Because I'm going to focus on the Philadelphia Eagles. Bankrupt. There are two ways to go bankrupt in this world. One is on the game show Wheel of Fortune. That's just bad luck. Number two is by mismanaging your assets in an extremely egregious manner, and that's exactly what General Manager Howie Roseman and the Philadelphia Eagles have done. I want to take you through history here, Dalen. Let's go back to 2016, and let's assess everything Philadelphia has given up to get Wentz and what they've gotten in return, packaged all together and culminating today. The Eagles have given up the 13th overall pick in 2016, a third and fourth round pick in 2016, a first round pick in 2017 that turned into Deshaun Watson. He's a half-decent player. A second round pick in 2018, linebacker Kiko Alonso, and cornerback Byron Maxwell. That's what the Eagles gave up. Here's what they got in return. A third round pick this year, a conditional second round pick next year, and a $33.8 million cap hit.
Yep.
That's not how you do business.
It's really not.
That's how you go bankrupt.
It's 100% right. And the cap piece of this, they knew they were in jail when they made the decision to say he's not our quarterback anymore. You knew you were messed up to begin with. Now in 2019, when they gave him the extension, that you could, at the time, it was questionable to begin with, and it just became worse and worse business as you went on. The trade market for quarterbacks is fascinating, because 2 years ago, anybody would have traded for this guy is way more than a third round pick and a conditional pick in future drafts. It's just really interesting how fast things can change. I think he can have that rebirth. We will see if he's the type of guy mentally strong enough to do it. But man, the Eagles fans. Sorry, people. That's tough.
I am an Eagles fan. I'm from Allentown, PA. Brutal, bro.
Allentown.
Brutal.
Should I sing some Billy Joel? Or are we going to get, fined for that? We're living here in Allentown.
They will disconnect the show right now if we even start about singing. All right, the good word number two. We're going into your neck of the woods, college hoops. Gonzaga or Baylor to win the tournament is plus 120. Gonzaga or Baylor plus 120 to win the tournament. What's your word?
Now, maybe you need to use the hyphen here. I'm worried about your spacing. Counterintuitive. There's a lot of letters in there. But it would seem to a lot of folks counterintuitive that I'm going to take. And I can't believe I'm doing this, Joe. I don't remember in my life either playing or covering college basketball to ever say that I would take X or Y team over the field. That just seems crazy to me. This year, though, it seems appropriate as he tries to spell counterintuitive. I think you nailed it.
Bro, how about like one syllable? How about just give me a little alley-oop here? Counterintuitive.
We'll work on that. I should have told you ahead of time what they are for some practice. But why it's counterintuitive? But these teams, you should never choose the two over everybody else. In a single elimination tournament like that, it is so hard to win 6 games. But these two teams, I think, are just that much better than everybody else, with the exception of Michigan. Michigan's coming off their pause. They looked great when they did that. They're the team that's creeping into that upper crust with those two. But Baylor and Gonzaga are just different. They are veteran-led, which matters so much in the tournament, and especially this year where experience has mattered more than any other year we've seen in college basketball. Gonzaga is historically good offensively. Baylor is really good offensively with great guards, and Davion Mitchell, Maceo Teague, Jared Butler, National Player of the Year candidate, but they guard the heck out of you. And they're blowing teams out. They haven't played in close games, Baylor hasn't, but they're in a really good conference in the Big 12. Now, I know they missed some games because of COVID pauses, but they are an outstanding elite defense that can lock you up. They can score. Gonzaga's doing stuff we've never seen offensively. I think these two, without a doubt, wherever you see them on your bracket, put them in the Final Four. They're getting there. The question is, when they see each other, it should be at the final if they do, and I think one of those two are winning it. I can't believe I'm doing it, but I'm taking Gonzaga or Baylor, not the field.
All right, counterintuitive is the word for Dalen Cuff. I am going to be going with something a lot simpler. Colt, as in Colt 45, as in Colt 45 malt liquor, endorsed by the icon Billy D. Williams, who always said you could have a better time without Colt 45. but why take chances? And why am I going to take chances with everyone in the field when I can get Gonzaga and Baylor? You have laid out the perfect case. You are a brilliant college hoops mind. I'm glad that we are aligning on this one. There's also a little bit of bias here. I do not like betting against either one of these teams because every time it happens, I just watch Gonzaga or Baylor railroad the opposition. Case in point, last weekend, I thought I was real clever taking 17 points to San Francisco. Gonzaga was up 20 in like 6 minutes and never looked back. They always keep their foot on the gas. So what I'm going to do is look around the field, and I'm going to assess the situation and realize that in a pandemic year, it's been nothing but favorites that have been winning championships. The Lightning in hockey, the Lakers in basketball, Alabama in football, the Dodgers in baseball. We get both of the best teams, and they're going to be on opposite sides of the bracket. Colt is the word. This is the bet. Moving on.
Hold on, real quick. You invoking Billy D. I mean, he's the coolest man in the planet for like 15 years. So that was really well done. I don't think I'm going to top that.
Not just the planet, the entire galaxy, my man. He was Lando Calrissian.
Yeah.
All right, number 3. Iowa sensation Luka Garza is minus 2,000 to win the Wooden Award, as the nation's top basketball player. Your word.
I'm going to simplify. I was going to choose a different word, but I'm going to be real simple for you. Wrap. W-R-A-P. It was a wrap before the year started. It's a wrap now. Like, this is one of those things in preseason. He was the favorite, everybody's favorite for National Player of the Year. And the way he came out of the gate, it was pretty much known within 10 days. He's not going to lose this thing. He puts up insane numbers, leads the nation in scoring, dominant force rebounding, high motor. His efficiency is off the charts. I mean, this is a guy that's 6'9", shoots threes, as well as can score at all 3 levels. And he shoots over 60% from the field. Absolute dominating performance night in and night out. He always gets his. He's going to be the National Player of the Year. We knew it before the year, and now we know it now for sure. So that's why he's minus 2,000, and yeah, no doubt about that.
I like it. I'm right in there with you as well, using a separate W word, wire, as in wire to wire. He was the favorite coming into the season, and he's done nothing to dissuade me or probably any voters or odds makers for voting against him. The one thing that sticks out to me is that if you were going to vote against Garza and you were going to bet against Garza, who's the number 2? And that's where it gets really tricky because there are so many good candidates right there in tier 2. You could just go to Illinois alone and you get a couple of stars. But sitting there in tier 2, all those guys are going to split up the votes, and Garza is going to continue to collect, which is what puts him in great shape. I want to go to Joe Lunardi in a second, but a follow-up to you. Who would be second in your opinion?
That's a great question because Ayo Dosunmu is in there for Illinois,
yes.
For sure. Jared Butler from Baylor, I already mentioned. Corey Kispert, Jalen Suggs, Andrew Timme, all from Gonzaga. I don't think there is a clear number 2, so I think your point is exactly right. There's a lot of guys that are capable of being right there and mentioned with Garza. Garza's just going to win the award, period.
Beautiful. All right, let's bring in another voice. Joe Lunardi, ESPN bracketologist, joining Dalen Cuff and myself here on Bet. Joe, we appreciate the time. Thanks for jumping on. Question number 1 right out of the gate. Tyler Fulgham, my normal co-host, and myself, well, we were running our mouths recklessly a few weeks ago about how there's no way Duke's going to miss the tournament. And now it feels like Duke might miss the tournament. How bad is that prediction looking from Tyler and myself?
I would still give the Blue Devils about a 60-40 chance to make it. What? But let's be clear. If we were talking a 9-8 team with a net over 60, whose best win is at Notre Dame, would we even be having the conversation? So you were right to kind of put the idea on the table, Joe. But, Duke's got to win some basketball games. The good news for them is the ACC is not really very good, so they have an opportunity to win basketball games. And our program, which kind of replicates past seasons and forecasts tournament odds going forward, is still putting them slightly in the good side, 60-40 as I say. But me, I'm betting the under.
Joe, I mean, you just broke my heart. We were on cable. We were on CBB Live 2 weeks ago. I said, how much longer do we have to talk about Duke? I thought this was the week. We were done. I thought it was over. But now you're telling me we're going to keep going. That's disturbing on its own right. Let me ask you a different question. In this COVID year, we've had people on pauses. Baylor's on a pause now. Has that changed at all how you are seeding teams when they go into these pauses, how you seed teams? And will the committee be seeding teams differently if somebody is on a pause when we hit Selection Sunday?
Well, this is completely random, but you mentioned Baylor for the first time. There's no doubt in my mind that Jared Butler is number 2 on the list of Player of the Year candidates to reference that. But what's the committee going to do? Look, anybody who says they really know is guessing. I'd like to think that my guessing is a little more educated than most under the circumstances, but that's why they're going to require, 7 straight days down of negative tests before they even get to Indy. So they don't want you there if you're going to have a positive and opt out or withdraw. So I really think a lot of this is going to work itself out. They've built in a gap between the conference tournaments and the day that the first full bracket gets underway, which is a week from, or 4 weeks from tomorrow. So, might we have an isolated instance or two? Maybe. But if other examples like in Bubbleville at Mohegan and other kind of closed bubble environments for basketball are any indication, we might just get away with it. And I think they will seed, to your direct question, they will seed exactly as the basketball resumes suggest they should.
You have 10 teams from the Big Ten making the tournament as of right now. We have not seen 10 teams from the same conference make the tournament since the Big East in, I believe, 2011. So how confident are you between now and tournament time we're going to see 10 Big Ten teams get in?
Yeah, it was 11 in 2011, but remember, that was a 16-team league. We're talking about a 14-team conference now with the Big Ten. And right now, the last two in are Maryland and Minnesota, whatever order you want to put them in. They're both under 500 in the league. Minnesota has been swept by Maryland. So I would put the Terps just slightly ahead of the Gophers at this point. History would tell you that at least one will play their way out because more teams tend to spend these latter weeks of the season playing their way out than in. So again, if I'm betting, I'm setting the over and under for the Big Ten at 9.5 bids, and I am taking the under.
Ooh, interesting. Okay, brackets. Let's talk about the Gonzaga and Baylor game. Joe and I both were saying we would take them against the field in terms of winning the whole championship. We're assuming they're going to be number one seeds, and they both are undefeated right now. But what is the scenario for each one, or is there a scenario where they are not number one seeds, or one of them will not be a number one seed?
Wow. No, I don't think that there is at this point. Certainly not in Gonzaga's case, because they just don't have enough games left that they can lose. I suppose they could have a complete train wreck and start losing to bottom end teams in the WCC. But again, they're pretty much at the end of the regular season. Now, Baylor is going to come back and play all up games, if you will. So I suppose they could come back from pause and look like Clemson, right? And just completely fall apart for 2 weeks. And again, not making a judgment. It's just what we've seen with our own eyes. But no, because a couple of things have to happen. They have to lose a lot, and someone has to be good enough to pass them. And right now, the next teams on the board, Michigan, Ohio State, Illinois, maybe Alabama, maybe Villanova if they get it back together. Some think Houston if they run the table. They've got a big game tonight at Wichita. So I think it's going to be Gonzaga, Baylor, and two Big Ten teams. Name your two.
Joe Lunardi, ESPN bracketologist, kind enough to spend some time with us here on Bet. Thanks so much, Joe. We appreciate it.
You bet. You guys should have told me I needed to dress up more. I feel really overdressed with you two.
Next time you come on, and we'll hopefully have you on in the next few weeks, you dress as down as you like. You can go shirtless if you want.
Pajamas, baby, whatever you need.
Let's not go there. Thanks, fellas.
Thanks, Joe. All right, that's some big picture look at college hoops. But now I'm going to walk into the jungle that is this guy, Dalen Cuff's backyard. He knows college hoops as well as anyone. Talks about it with us on Daily Wager, which you can catch today, 6 p.m. Eastern on ESPN2. Game number one, my man. We're going head-to-head here. Gonzaga is laying 20.5. The total is 141.5 as they get set to host St. Mary's. What do you like?
Really, I like the over in this game. Just because I know St. Mary's is going to play their slow tempo. The number, when it's Gonzaga 20, when it's below 20, they're much better. When it's above 20 in terms of covering. So I'm going to stay away from that. I think they handle this game a lot. I'm worried about any backdoor covers when they're going to be up late. St. Mary's played about as well as they could when they played earlier in the year. Moraga lost by 16 points. I don't think they play that well tonight. I think Gonzaga runs it up. I think Gonzaga ends up getting in the 80s. And I think St. Mary's, if they can crack to the 60s, I think we're looking at a good over. That's what I'm hoping happens. But it'll be a slower pace than they're used to.
I'm with you. I agree. Gonzaga's averaging 94 points per game at home this season. That's number 1 in college hoops. They haven't played a home college game in weeks. Their last 5 have been on the road. So I think you're going to have that extra pep in the step playing in their home building. And if you go back to that meeting on January 16th between the two, it was the slowest pace of any Gonzaga game this year, which is to be expected. It was a season low 11 3-point attempts, and they still got to 132 points. I think we can get over. We only need 9 more here, essentially. So I'm going to play the over with you. Game number 2, number 18, Wisconsin. Fresh off that second half meltdown against Michigan, they're laying 2, total of 145 as they get set to host Luka Garza and Iowa. Your thoughts?
I'm going to take the under here because, again, they're going to get their pace at the Kohl Center. They make you play slow. They might want to try to grind it out. Yes, they ran into a buzzsaw in the second half last week. Michigan is just that good. And Wisconsin is going through some struggles right now. Nate Reavers and Micah Potter have to be better dealing with Garza. I think they slow this thing down. I think it's a grinder. I think it's a one-possession game in the low 70s to high 60s. Keeps you under 145.
I'm going to lay the 2 with Wisconsin. They opened as a 1.5-point dog, and they crossed over to the favorite. It's been nothing but Wisconsin money for 2 key reasons. Number 1, Iowa's been struggling as of late. They've lost 4 of 7, 2 of which came on the road against Illinois and Indiana in big spots. Number 2, I think it's a good buy low spot for Wisconsin, coming off that aforementioned meltdown against Michigan, who was off the COVID layoff. I think people saw that. It was on national TV on Sunday, I believe. A lot of people soured on how the Badgers played in the second half. This is a spot to jump on them in this situation. The Badgers play some great defense. All 5 Iowa losses have come against teams that rank in the top 63 in adjusted defense, according to KenPom. Wisconsin ranks 9th. Game number 3. It's the number 3 ranked Michigan Wolverines, laying 9, a total of 136.5. They're hosting the Rutgers Scarlet Knights.
Rutgers is a top 25 team in my mind. They're not there right now because they had that rough 5-game losing streak within a brutal Big Ten. But you're going to give me 9 points to a quality team. I think they can keep this in a 3-possession game, 2-possession game. I like the chances. Slower game. It'll be a grinded-out tempo. It'll be hard to really blow somebody out. I like Rutgers. I'll take the points right now and roll with the Scarlet Knights.
Yes, mind meld. I'm with you as well on this one. I think it's a bit of a sell high on Michigan for the same reason Wisconsin's a buy low. When they got together, national television over the weekend, Michigan looked fantastic in the second half, coming all the way back to win that game. But they were off that COVID layoff, 23 days, and I'm wondering if that might have some effect here as they get set for their next game against Rutgers. 2 teams with really slow tempos, 2 teams with very good defenses. You figure this is going to be a bit of a grind up and down the court, everyone marking everyone, and you're going to put 9 points in my pocket with a Rutgers team that many people don't realize is as good as they are this year. I'll take it. I'm right there with you. Game number 4, final one before we move to the NBA. Number 4, Ohio State, laying 4.5, total of 145 on the road at Penn State. Your pick.
Penn State just lost at home to Nebraska, who's hands down the worst team in the Big Ten. Not being a prisoner of the moment, they're better than that, but Ohio State's really good, folks. Like an outstanding team, mentally and physically tough on both sides of the ball. They present a lot of matchup problems offensively. I think they can go into Penn State, win this game by 5 to 8 points, take you to Cover City. I love Ohio State, everything they're about, and defensively they are improving. They're getting better. The physicality, again, mental and physical toughness they have. Not sure Penn State's going to meet or want that fight for 40 minutes, and I think Ohio State takes care of business.
All right, we're on the opposite sides for this one. I will take the Nittany Lions plus the points here. Bit of a buy low spot. They've dropped 4 of 6, so no one's all that excited about backing Penn State, and I can understand that. But I want to go back to their first meeting in Columbus back on January 27th. Ohio State only won that game by 4 points, and they shot 65% from 2-point range. They couldn't miss. Figuratively. Literally, they missed plenty. They only knocked down 65%. That's a D in a lot of the classes I took. But Penn State generates a lot of its offense from 3-point range. 35% of its scoring comes from deep. That ranks 65th in NCAA amongst everybody. When you look at Ohio State, their 3-point defense is good, not great. It's about average throughout the course of the country. Maybe Penn State gets hot for a few minutes, and it's enough to keep it close. But I will admit, there have been several Ohio State games this year where I've tried to bet against them, and like you said when you opened, Dalen, they're outstanding. They are an absolute freight train. So I go into this one with a little bit of caution. How do you feel about some NBA pick'em for Thursday night?
Let's roll.
All right, 3 games. Let's start with the Milwaukee Bucks, who have been struggling as of late. They're going to lay 6.5, monster total of 235.5 as they get set to host the Toronto Raptors. Do the Bucks continue to lose, in your opinion?
I don't know if they continue to lose. I mean, if I'm going to take the points, I would take the Raptors. I like the over here, though, but I'm concerned because that number what I saw earlier today, it was lower. So it's moving up, and it's a little bit concerning. The Raptors have gone over 9 of the last 10 games. They have a top 15 offense. Obviously, the Bucks have a top 5 offense. The Bucks have lost 4 straight, as you mentioned. They're trying to find a way to right the ship. I think they're going to lean on offense. Giannis has got to get other guys involved. He coming off another monster night. When these teams just played back on Tuesday, they were around the same total now. I think you look at the similar game playing out today with maybe a couple more points in it. The over, but like I said, I liked it a little better when it's a couple points lower. It's a little bit dicey now.
Yeah, it is climbing. I'm with you. I'm going to play the over as well. When you look at Milwaukee this season, especially in this 4-game losing streak they're currently battling through, they're giving up 123 points per game. Their defense is MIA. Last year, they were the top-ranked team in the NBA when it came to defensive rating. Now they rank 13th. And I think you hit the nail on the head with Toronto, how they've gone over in 9 of their last 10 games. That's key because I think a lot of people look at Toronto without Kawhi Leonard. They've been losing star players over the last few years. And I think a lot of people think these guys don't score a lot of points. And they do. They play much better offense than we're used to seeing. They play much worse defense than we're used to seeing. And I don't think we've caught up from an oddsmaker perspective on some of these numbers. So I think you're going to have Toronto willing to engage Milwaukee. They force the opposition to play at their pace. Everyone's scoring all over the place in this game. I'm with you. Let's go over. Game number 2. This is the big one. LeBron and the Lakers are now laying 3. Total of 230 against the Brooklyn Nets. No Kevin Durant for the Nets. No Anthony Davis for the Lakers. How are you going to attack this one?
I mean, the Nets have allowed 249 points in their last 2 games total. I mean, the over, I think, will cash here. I like the Lakers, though, too, laying the points. I know it's moving in that direction, so people are feeling the same way I am. But when you have the best defense in the league against a really good offense, it's not at full strength, albeit. That might slow things down a little bit. LeBron playing at home. I think overall, I think the Lakers can cover this game, take you to cover city. I think also the over is going to hit in this game as well. Clearly, I'm pretty big on the Lakers, but also the fact that the Nets can still score, just not at a clip enough to beat the Lakers on their own court.
No doubt. I'm going to lay the 3 with the Lakers here for 3 key reasons. Number 1, I see a situational advantage for Los Angeles. This is the 4th game in 6 nights for the Nets, all of which have come on the road. For the Lakers, it's just their 2nd game in the last 4 nights. They were both rested last night, but overall, the Lakers come in much, much fresher. Number 2, when you talk about the bench, huge advantage for the Lakers. They're top 5 in bench scoring and bench field goal percentage. Not the case for the Nets. They rank in the bottom half of the league in both those categories, bench scoring and bench field goal percentage. And then number 3, this might be the most important part. This is a rare get-up game for the Lakers. You look at their schedule, their last 10 games, they've only played 2 games against teams with a winning record. Both those games came against Denver, right? They've been playing the OKCs of the world, the Minnesotas, the Detroits. This is a good litmus test. This is a get-up situation. I know Durant's out, but so is Anthony Davis. I'll lay the 3 with the Lakers. I think we get a great effort tonight. And then, of course, if you still need some action, the reeling Miami Heat. It's a pick'em, total of 226.5. They're in Sacramento taking on the Kings. I mean, we're going to bet it because we enjoy betting, but that doesn't mean you have to watch it. Where are you going to go here?
I mean, the Heat, as you mentioned, they lost 4 straight, but the Kings also have lost 3 straight. Now, the Heat are coming off a back-to-back. When these teams played earlier in the year, 105-104, it was the definition of a grinded-out game, and the Heat were able to prevail at the very end. I think you're going to see a Kings team that's going to be fresh, but just not capable of racking up a ton of points. I like the under overall. I think De'Aaron Fox, Buddy Hield, and crew will – Fox is going to push the pace. He's going to try to push as much as he can. They're going to knock down some threes, but Miami's going to play the different way. They're going to slow this game down. I think it's a battle of paces, a battle of style, contrasting styles. In the end, I think the under comes in for both these teams that are just dying to get a W in any way, which I think will play out to a grinded-out style.
All right, so we end the show on the opposite sides of our Pick'em Challenge. I'm going to play the over in this situation. This is the 3rd game in 4 nights for the Miami Heat. So if they're going to mail it in at any point, I think it's going to be on the defensive end of the court before it's on the offensive end of the court. Sacramento loves to fly up and down the court, 11th in pace, but the key here is how bad Sacramento's defense is. I believe they're 29th in scoring defense. Only Washington's given up more points, and they're 30th in defensive rating. So if Miami was having woes in the second half last night against Golden State trying to find the bucket, not going to be a problem against Sacramento. They'll be able to get theirs up. And I don't think Sacramento's going to have much of a problem because I don't see Miami playing great defense tonight given the situation. I will play the over. Dalen Cuff, man. Such a pleasure. Thanks for coming on the show. You were fantastic.
Thank you, my friend. It was nothing short of magical. I look forward to doing it again another time.
All right, he's Dalen Cuff. My name's Joe Fortenbaugh. This is your Thursday installment of Bet. Remember, you can catch us on Daily Wager, ESPN2 at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 Pacific. That's today. And then again, Bet will be back on Monday. For now, have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks so much for checking us out. We appreciate it.